Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Tea Time with Miss Liz. It's afternoon tea with Miss Liz. And today in the studio, I am joined with Janna Helshtein. And she, Helshtein?
Helshtein.
Helshtein. I'm going to learn a little bit of Hebrew today. This woman is truly incredible. I can't wait to hear her story and all the incredible things that she wants to share with all of us today during tea time. So I'm just going to share a little bit on her bio. I'm not going to read all of her bio, so if you'd like to check her bio, check out her tea time on Miss Liz's page. I'm just going to do a little mini bio read, and then she's going to get right into it and share her amazing story with us today. Janna Helshtein, right? Helshtein? She's gonna get me to say it right by the end of the show. She's 54, married, and a mother of two boys. One just joined the army, which makes her a worried mom. Throughout her adult life, she's changed professions many times. After graduating with a BA in English, Literature, and Teaching at Haifa University and a year of teaching English, she was drawn to the makeup artist profession in movies and theater. Then an instructor at the Jewish agency working with children overseas and teenagers who came to get to know Israel, to a translator in an international company, head office and logistics at several other companies, a massage therapist and healer, volunteering for various projects in between. There was one constant: the love for family history. The intense boost for my research was actually from a very naive question from my eldest son after we spent 2 years in the USA. At a welcome back dinner, my son, who was only 3 years old, pointed at my brother and asked, "Mommy, who's that?" I have no explanation for the knot I felt in my stomach and the realization that if he doesn't know where he is coming from, how would he know where to go? And I'm going to leave the rest, and you can check out her bio on Miss Liz's Tea Time. And Janna, thank you so much for joining me today on Tea Time. I am excited to hear all the incredible things you're going to share with us today. So welcome, Janna.
Thank you for having me. I'm just as excited because I kept watching your tea times and listening to the amazing people that you hosted, and when you approached me, and I'm like, who. I felt kind of, who am I among those amazing people that you hosted? I can't believe you reached out to me. So I'm really honored, and I'm really happy to spend my teacup with you.
Me too. We got cups of tea today. We're both drinking tea. That's a once in a lifetime.
Yeah. I was actually, I have a set that I was given by my in-laws. That is an English set, very rare one. They were given, I think they received it as a present when they got married in South Africa. And that was over 60 years ago.
Oh, wow.
It's an amazing English set. Actually two of them, and one is called the Rainbow. I mean, if you look it up, it's like really rare. And I was actually thinking of digging it up because, it's all packed nicely in some cupboard. And I'm thinking, oh, my God, that would be amazing if I could just, take out one of those teacups. And they're like really refined English teacups.
Oh, I love teacups. I have over 500 teacups, and I still want more. So if anybody wants to give me teacups, I love the history of the teacup, who drinks from it, where it came from, who passed it down. It's almost like what you do with DNA, right?
Sort of, yeah. It's I think if we go back to how it all started, and to go back to this story that you told about my son, I mean, once in a while I would always stop and ask my grandmother, all kinds of stories, and you hear family gossip, and up to a certain age you just regard it as family gossip, and who did what and who went where and how things came about, but you don't really research as to whether it's true or not. You just take it as it is because you're a kid, and you just accept everything as you're given. Um, and so, as time went by, we spent about 2 years in the States. And when we left, my son was a year and a half. So by the time we came back, he was 3.5. And it's not an age where you remember neither people nor places. Well, most people, I would assume. And so when we came back, it was sort of like a get together that my mum did for us, sort of like a welcome dinner. And my son points at my brother and tags me on my, pulls my shirt, and he says, "Mommy, who's that?" And like I told you before, I mean, the knot that I felt in my stomach, it was just unexplainable, because it was such a naive question, but it kind of, shook me to, because I take my parents, not anymore, but I used to take my parents and my brother for granted. They've always been there. They always will be. And it just made me think, nobody's always going to be there. Not even me, as immortal as I might feel. And so the urge of bringing him the stories, and I think it's all about stories. We talk a lot about genealogy, and I mean, doing genealogy is such hard work, and you spend hours and hours looking through documents and looking through papers and gathering photos and trying to find out what came from what and whether one record coincides with the other record. And I think that true genealogists, at least the ones that I admire, realize that it's all about the stories, because that's what we're taking in. That's what shapes us as people. It's not the number of people we have on our family tree. It's the stories of those people and what they did and what they sacrificed for us to be here. And so I started researching my own family, and I found out amazing things. I'm really regretful that I wasn't as vigorous about it as I am today. And so I think I missed out a lot when my grandmother was still alive. But I did manage to sit down with her and write down, because they were nine children. And after the Holocaust, only 3 survived.
Oh, wow.
And so I managed to sit down with her and write the names of the people, the names of her siblings. So, things that I wouldn't have been able to know if it wasn't for her telling me about it.
Yeah, and that's something that when we talked, I got to know you a little bit more before we even set up the tea time, was knowing our families, right? The history, who our cousins were, the names, where we come from, where we get our strength, where we get these traits that we are like, where does this come from? Why do I like this? Like, and when we talked, I was like, oh my goodness, like this woman, I need to get her on, because since I was a little girl, I've always kept track of all of my cousins, the last names. Oh, this cousin's related to this cousin and this cousin. And there's actually one lady who I had on Tea Time who we actually think we might be related. We're still trying to find out. Yeah. And when she came on Tea Time, she's like, oh my God, you look like me. And I'm like, oh my God, you look like me. I'm like, so we're looking into it, and we're trying to see. And I am actually related to the Bouchers. So she was one of my tea guests, and we're looking into that. So my great grandmother was a Boucher. So yeah, it's amazing how small the world is, right?
It is, definitely. And I think it's really important, because it gives us, when we look back, we don't want to find a void. We want to see the tribe. In this modern time, when we talk about it takes a tribe to raise a child, it kind of faded away, because we don't live in a tribe. And so in a way, I'm sort of bringing this tribe into our lives by telling their stories and by following the people, trying to find out where they went and why they left. One of the things I can tell you about that I did it was a few years ago, just before the Holocaust Day. There was once in a year, there's a Holocaust memorial in Israel. And it's a day that is noticed in all of Israel. In the morning, you have the sirens going and people are standing still for a whole minute. And it's very emotional. Now, we study about the Holocaust in school from kindergarten. I mean, a lot. And I think at some point, schools just lose it. They don't. When kids, it's so repetitive, and kids need, or teenagers, they need to be connected to something. They need to feel. And so what I did, I looked at the family tree that I had, and then I was looking. Now, in a family tree, you have, each person has got his own profile where you can add either photos or all the information, the bio, documents, whatever you have about that person. And you have his date of birth and date of death and the cause of death. And so I started following all the people who died or were murdered in the Holocaust. And so what I did, I took out all the profiles of all the people, both on my side and my partner's side, all the people that were murdered during the Holocaust. Under each profile, some of them have, well, of course, some of them, the more recent ones, or, recent relatively. So some of them have, the photos of those people. But for each profile, I wrote down both the age, and it's horrific. I mean, ages range from months and a year or 2-year-old, up to 60 and 70-year-olds. So I wrote the age of the person who died, and I wrote the connection, how they connect to my boys, because I actually prepared that presentation for them. Yeah. So each and every person in that presentation, I think I have it on my Facebook, somewhere in the videos of my Facebook page. So each and every person in that presentation, they could see the path that leads from that person, no matter how far or how close he is, all the way down to them, to make it personal, to make it meta. So it's not just we are noticing, we have this Memorial Day, Holocaust Memorial Day for everyone. It's not just something out there that you sit down and watch watch Schindler's List on TV, or you hear about the stories of the people that went through the Holocaust. Now it's here, it's close, it's people that exactly how they are related to you. And so the presentation has 109 profiles.
Wow.
And I don't think I even realized how many until I made that presentation. I was taken aback when I saw all these names, and it's like page after page, because I did it on PowerPoint, and it's a page after page after page, and I'm like, oh my God, it's heartbreaking. And so I don't want those profiles just to be profiles on a tree. I want those stories. I want
exactly
to know what those people went through, because it's thanks to all those people that we are here today, and I'm able to sit down and drink my cup of tea with you.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
And it makes us who we are. It's a little branch that has connected us and makes us who we like. It gives us traits and patterns. Sometimes we'll like a certain smell, a certain flower, and we're like, why do we like this flower? And it might have been a great grandmother who loved this flower or had a garden with this flower, and for me, that's what tea time is. Like, for me, I started my first tea with my great grandma. So like I like the history of it. I like the story behind it. I like to know why that person is the way they are. And that's why I truly wanted you on Tea Time, was because you have an amazing story and you are changing lives. Like, you have changed hundreds of people's lives with your work. Like, it is amazing what you do. And I'm truly blessed to have you here. Like, it is amazing. So you have some family members. I've been putting up the comments as they're coming in the studio. So Gallet, we love you. Janna, Ellen, Isaac. Hi, Janna. Your husband's distant cousin in the U.S. is here. Uh,
Oh,
and Ellen again is saying, Antonio Nicholas, please watch this through to put your puzzle together. I'm guessing there's a puzzle somewhere, and we are all puzzle pieces that all join together and connect together. I'd like to know a little bit more on why has it been your passion, and what is the driven, like what drives you to know more?
I think it started with the small things that you find out about your family, or you realize that you've never known, and you get to a point where you say, "Oh my God, I've heard that story all my life, but I've never noticed the details. I've never noticed the, how intrigued things might be, and um, how our memory kind of chooses what to remember and what not to remember. And you see it a lot with older people, when you talk about something and then they don't really talk about it, or they just kind of brush over it.
Yeah.
And then you hear a story about the same occurrence but from somebody else, and you realize how the other person kind of might have been, either blocked, or just because it wasn't a good experience, they kind of, it's like a sift, like a net, that some of the, like a fish net, that some of the fish just stay in the sea, and
Yeah.
some of them, some of them you just
Some of them get away.
So it started with, the small things, and then my big one of the things that I'm really proud of is, and that's a lecture that I'm it's a story I'm telling, is about my father and his, my father's biological mother died when he was 3 weeks old, and he never got to know her or anything about her. And I was privileged. I mean, I was lucky. I was privileged. I was everything together. I truly, with all my heart, cannot attribute it to myself alone. It was all the circumstances came together to help me be so lucky as to reconnect him with his biological mother's family, who he never knew. And my God, they are amazing, amazing, amazing family. And they received my father like the long lost son, as if they were just, waiting there for him to arrive. And I couldn't have wished for a better family. I mean, really, because when you think about family that you don't know, or you reconnect with, you never know who you're gonna come across. Especially when, I mean, I'm 54, and my father is 73, so he was very young when he had me. So many years later, almost 70 years later, to kind of, knock on the door of somebody else that a complete stranger up until that moment, and say, we're family, and we're close family, because we're talking about we found his uncle and cousins, first cousins. And so, you never know who's going to be on the other side. And we were incredibly lucky. We have the most amazing, amazing family. I mean, just amazing people. And that was, for me, it was kind of, there was a sort of tingling all over my body when that happened, and when my dad went over to the United States and to spend time with them. I've never seen my father as happy as he was when he came back, or when he sent me photos. And my dad is not the melancholy type. I mean, he's a very content man with his life. But to see his smile, there was so sort of like radiating his eyes, his smile, and it felt, I don't think that I have enough words in Hebrew, English, Russian, or any other language to describe this feeling, like, you have so much joy in you that you think you're going to burst.
Yeah.
That was my state of my state of mind, my physical state. I just couldn't content it, and I felt like this is what I was meant to do. I mean, this is how I want to feel all the time. And it was sort of like getting addicted to, we were talking about smoking, but in a way, this is sort of an addiction as well, like athlete to adrenaline. I guess it's some sort of the same adrenaline that rushes through when you get to be in such a God-given position of reuniting people. And that led me to, well, I started a bit earlier researching and for my spouse's biological parents, and because he was adopted. Yep. And the start was kind of get along. Yes, we're trying to, so what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, but that experience with my father just gave it like putting a mint in a Coke bottle. Have you ever seen what happens when you?
Oh my goodness, yes.
Mentos into a Coke bottle. So that was the cathartic feeling that I got, and again, we started, and then that was the time where I was introduced to DNA. Because up until that point, DNA was for me something from another world. It's expensive, it's out there, out of reach. And by that time, we're talking about 2015 when we started searching. And once he took the first test, that was, again, coincident, by accident, because he met the founder of FTDNA, just completely out of context, not concerning DNA or nothing. It was just something that a meeting that he had at work, and he happened to be there, and he happened to hear Gilad's story, and he happened to have a DNA kit in his bag. And, so it's so many things that came together. And he took his first test, and we started searching. And again, I was the luckiest person in the world, because I was contacted by a third cousin that he had, that found him in his matches. Her name is Katie, and I'm so sorry to say that she passed away last year. So she was the first to contact us. And then again, I struck luck. I mean, I struck gold, because I had two amazing women joining me. One was Therese Byron, and she's Irish, but she lives in Switzerland, and Louise O'Connell. And they both research Irish genealogy, because we found out that my husband was half Irish.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That explained a lot.
A lot?
And I'll tell you why in a minute, and you'll see how unbelievable it is. And so those amazing angels were the driving force behind finding his biological, his biological father's family, and reuniting him with his half sister in South Africa. And again, I struck luck again, because she is amazing, amazing. And you talk about riches in the world, and when I look around me, the people that crossed my path and were there as part of my journey, part of our journey, part of any chapter in my life. And I look around and I'm like, oh my God, I must have done something good, because I cannot explain how I'm surrounded with such amazing people that gave me so much. I mean, those two women, they dedicated hours and hours of days and nights to be there for me and to lead the search forward. And I learned so much from them. And from there on, it's been almost 2.5 years. But the 5 years since we started with DNA, a day hasn't gone by without me studying something or reading something about DNA. I just can't have enough. Honestly, I just finished a course with Blaine Battinger on GRIP in Pittsburgh, and I'm starting another one in August, the 18th of August, another 5-week course. And there's so much to learn. And the DNA world is so amazing. I mean, the stuff that can be done today to connect people, to reconnect families, to find people is mind-blowing.
It is. It really is.
Mind-blowing. And I really feel privileged, because I truly believe that if there's any basic right to anyone, it's especially people, I mean, all people, not especially, all people, is knowing your heritage, knowing where you came from.
Yeah.
This is like the basic human right. And if I can do that for adoptees, if I can do that for people, I mean, there's a whole thing, well, it's not now, it's been going for a long time. When you talk about people that were born from sperm banks, and people, a lot of the adoptees that I've met, including my own partner, they keep saying, because people like to compare adoptees, especially to, remember Marco, the cartoon, the show, and Marco, who is he looking for? He's looking for his mother. Yeah. And so many times you hear people comparing adoptees to this Marco looking for his mother. And if one thing I heard my partner say time and time again, stop comparing us to Marco, because we're not looking for a mother and a father. We have a mother and a father that raised us. And, if you're lucky enough, then you have parents that adopted you and love you. I mean, we hear horror stories, and there are horror stories everywhere, whether it's your biological children or your adoptive children or whatever.
Yeah.
But we're not looking for a mother and a father. We're looking for our roots.
Exactly.
We're looking to know where we came from. And it's a basic human right that just makes my blood boil when people feel that that they have, and you talk about laws and state, and when you think about it and you look at all the laws and who is in the world entitled to prevent those people, to take away this basic human right of knowing where you came from.
Exactly.
I think that we've watched hundreds and hundreds of interviews of adoptees at the time that we were, my husband was part of the adoption rights movement in Israel. And at the time, we were viewing hundreds of interviews, and one of them stuck with me. And I think that she captured the essence of that feeling. It wasn't, it was a, I think she was in her 20s, and she was talking to her adoptive parents because they had a program about her searching for her roots and why is she searching. And they had sort of like a taped conversation. And she looked at them with the most loving eyes and said, "You are my parents, but your ancestors are not my ancestors."
Exactly.
And that stuck with me. That I thought that was so simple and so profound, because I think that captures the essence of people that are searching for their roots, whether they're adopted or sperm banks or egg donors or whatever. When people don't know where they came from, it's a void that nothing but that information of where they came from can fulfill.
Yeah.
And so I feel that, I feel so privileged to be in this world.
Yeah.
And I told you that I'm going to tell you something about Ireland. So way before we even thought about starting to look for his biological parents, um, my husband needed to clear his head, and I'm talking like about 10 years before this whole search began. And he said, "Well, fine, where do you think you'll be going?" And he said, "Well, Ireland." Said, "Fine." So he grabbed his guitar and he went to Ireland for a few days. I think he spent there like 5 or 6 days maybe. And going to pubs. But of course, if you're in London, you go to a pub.
Yep.
There's, I love this song where wherever you go around the world, you'll find an Irish pub. It's a beautiful song, and
I'll have to look for that one.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it's got the rhythm to die for. And the song says, "Wherever you go around the world, you'll find an Irish pub." And he was, just sitting there in the parks and playing his guitar. The funny thing is that he was just playing for himself, and then people started dropping money in his guitar case. So anyway, he cleared his head and he came back. And what's the first thing that you ask someone when he comes back? Well, how was your trip, right? And he looks at me, and up to this point we haven't seen the whole world, but we've been around. And he looks at me and he says, "It felt like home." And at the time, it sounded like a very strange thing to say, because we've been in Europe. I mean, we've been to the States, and never has he ever said anything like that before. And that's all he had to say. It just felt like home. And he said that if it wasn't, I had moments, he said, where I actually thought of, what if I don't go back? That's how connected he felt.
Oh, wow.
To the ground he was walking on. To 10 years later, find out that he's half Irish.
Wow.
Like, how amazing is that? And that's, I mean, people can't even say, well, you kind of twist the story to fit. No, it was about 10 years before we even started searching. And I mean, it gives me goosebumps even today, to this day, because I think that's the power. That's the power of genetics. That's the power of DNA. And I really believe it has so much more than just the biology of it.
Yeah.
There is so much more. There's emotion and our body's memory. And I, each to his belief, but I truly believe that the things that we come into this world with, we are not a blank slate. We carry stuff with us that, we have the rest of our lives to try and find out why we came into this world with these either traits or memories. So we have the rest of our lives here on earth to find out why, or what's the purpose of what we have. But I just find it like so fascinating and mind-blowing that I just want to know more and more all the time.
It's like add more sugar. Come on, give me more sugar, right? It's like added to the story. Like I want to know why they went here, why they traveled here, why they married that person, or why they left that person. Like I want to know the story behind it all. I'm very curious. My mind is very curious. I get into it. Like I said, like I've done some research on ancestry for my family. I've gone all the way back to 1716 and found a lot of incredible people that I'm like, okay, this is where I get this from. This is, okay, now this makes sense. Because I'll look at like my grandma or my mom or my dad and I'm like, I don't get that from you. Where do I get that from? And then as I was looking back on ancestry and I found distant cousins and aunts and uncles, okay, this is where I get it from. Yep. And this is why I like this, and this is why I like this flavor or this flower so much. Because I'll always ask my mom or my grandmother before she passed, why do I like that flower so much? Why do I love the forget-me-not so much? None of you guys have gardens. None of you guys like flowers, but I love this forget-me-not. And my great-great-grandmother 4 times over had a forget-me-not garden. And I found pictures, I found pictures of my great-great-grandparents in Germany, the cells that they were put into during the war and all that. I've done a lot of digging, and that's why I said, like, when Gally gave me your name to reach out to you, I was like, oh my God, I need this woman on Tea Time. Like, I need to know more. It was like, I need more. Give me more.
It's truly amazing, and the way things kind of weave in, like if I go towards his biological mother, right? Both her and his biological father were in a theater. His mother was very musical, and my husband is a musician. And if we found out that his grandfather, and that's not that far, a grandfather, he won the bronze medal in boxing in the 1928 Olympics in Amsterdam.
Oh, wow.
And I got his aunt, well, of course, we got in touch with his aunt, and he went to Canada to visit them. And she sent me all this material, and his photos and his medals. And that was so exciting. And it's something that, the Olympics, it's something that you know about. And now you have somebody in the history of your family that was there. And it's fascinating. I really, when there's a site where they have all the Jewish Olympics medalists listed on there, and we realized that he wasn't there, and I was so happy that I contacted them and I sent them all the material, and now he's cited on that site, and not that he will be forgotten, but now he's there with all the other medalists and Jewish important people. So that was really exciting when they accepted his material, and he's on that site. So that was very, very exciting. And so you see how his mother was in theater, his biological father was in theater. He is an amazing performer. He's a musician. His mother was musical. And I started telling you about the song that he wrote right after we found who his biological mother was, and we started researching her family, and we reconnected with family, and we're all over the place. We have Alan that you told me that is here, and I think I've seen Alison as well, and she's a cousin from England.
Mhm.
And I think I've seen Siobhan as well. So she's his half sibling from South Africa. I've seen my family from Boston, and it's all it's all coming together, and it's heartwarming. So right after we found who his biological mother was, and we started collecting collecting stories about her and how her life went. And right after we found who she was, before we even knew her story, before we had the chance of hearing her about her and how she came to give him away, he wrote a song about her, and it's called "Holes in the Water." Amazing, amazing. I really recommend if you go on YouTube and you click on "Holes in the Water" by Pure Imbalance, and he literally tells her story without knowing anything about her story. And
Wow.
it wasn't after we learned how about her life and what she went through and the environment the environment she grew up in, that we and I looked at him and I was like, how could you have known? How could you have known?
Yeah.
And the only way he could explain it was, I felt her. Well, he knew about growing up in South Africa and what that meant. Um, and still, there's no way when you hear the words and you hear how he sings about her, and then you hear about his story, and he said there's no way the man could have written this song without knowing what life his mother had, or what about, without knowing her story.
Yeah.
So I guess, and again, I mean, some things I truly believe they just kind of sip into us
Yep.
and become part of us, and it's thanks to thanks to all these people that came before us. And from somebody that was just a profile on a tree, I can pick up the phone and call my dad's cousins in Boston, and be every time I press the WhatsApp video, the what I see on the other side is this smiling face, really happy to see me. Um, so we truly, on both sides, both my own with my father's family, and both on Gilad's side, on my husband's side, both his biological mother and biological father, we are truly blessed, because so many things could have gone wrong.
Yep.
And
Well, not
just
everybody wants to meet family too, right? We have those stories too that people are like, you know what? I don't want to know you. I don't want to. It is what it is, and let it rest. But then you have these happy, good stories like your story, and where people want to get to know you, where people want to know more, and try to understand why they they connect for a reason. You know, and that's what we need. We need these positive stories out there, like.
yeah, because well, it's all about people.
Yeah.
I guess it's all down to each and every one, and us just being very lucky that all the people that came around us were just amazing. Because, like I said, I mean, I keep thinking of how many small things had to come together
Yeah.
in order to enable us connect his family and my family, and how many things could have gone wrong in between.
Mm-hmm.
So you talk about not taking things for granted, and when you deal with DNA, when you deal with genealogy, when you are so much involved in people's stories and lives, you come to appreciate every single thing that's around you.
Yeah.
Nothing is taken for granted. No, you're close, not the people that are close to you, neither the people that are distant from you. Nothing around you is taken for granted because, you know, just to be born, how many things could have gone wrong?
Exactly, right? So on your website here that I found, I'm going to add it on. This is the website that you have your blogs and videos on, I believe, right?
Yeah, I think, well, disregard because the translation is not as good. But if I could just say a couple of things about this site and the platform that is this site is presented on. And that's, in a way, you talk about family, and we have our own family. By the way, we do have, each of us has two trees. We have our genealogical tree and we have our genetic tree. And they're not the same. I mean, everyone who's in your genetic tree, you will find in your genealogical tree, but not the
Okay.
other way around, because genetics goes by DNA. And there's another family. There's the family that you build around you, and your friends and your colleagues, and some of them become really close and supportive. So this is something that I really am proud to say about the platform where my site is on. It's called Biz Make Biz, and it's a platform for small businesses to present themselves. We are now presented through the site with a platform for Zoom meetings and for lectures and workshops, and we actually put out a program of 210 lectures of all kinds, from all walks of life, people that just are giving those lectures without pay, and just giving their knowledge and their time, realizing that these coronavirus times hard on all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really, really proud to be part of that. Something that started as being just one of many on a business platform.
Yep.
And through this period, and the founder, he's called Moshe Charlovsky, and he managed to take all these small businesses, and uplift us and make us a family. And I'm really proud to be one of those businesses. And it's, again, not taken for granted, because it's amazing what is done. And so you can find stuff on me on that site. And I have my Facebook page that is, again, unfortunately, most of it is in Hebrew. And here's why. When I started with DNA, I realized that little, close to none, was available in Hebrew. And there's a huge genealogical community, and the genetic the genetic genealogies community is growing. And language and English, sometimes people can have a language barrier. And so I figured, I have the knowledge, I have the ability to translate. And so that's how I started, little by little. Started with videos that you can find on YouTube, that is called DNA at Eye Level. And there's videos in Hebrew, and then translating. I was, again, very lucky to have known people that are at the top of the DNA world today, and they agreed for me to translate articles that they wrote. That's my Facebook page, where I bring in information, the latest sales information, changes in the DNA, the different companies. And so I was very lucky to have known some of the really outstanding people in the DNA world, and they give me permission to translate a lot of the stuff that they write about, and I'm able to bring that in Hebrew, and so that is why most of the stuff you'll find in Hebrew, and that is why I'm so happy to have, besides meeting you, and I was excited way before this, this evening, that I can bring my English speaking family together as well, to be part of something that I'm part of, and understanding me.
Well, and everything happens for a reason, right? There's a perfect timing for everything.
I believe that.
So, Janna, what last message would you have for everybody out there about DNA and about the journey? What message do you have for everybody?
I think, above all, never give up. It's never a dead end. It might take time. It usually takes time. You'll find occasionally somebody who'll post on one of my favorite Facebook pages, genetic genealogy tips and techniques. Somebody who says, I did my DNA test, and within 24 hours, he found his biological parents. Yeah, those happen. Having said that, it doesn't happen often, and it doesn't happen to everybody. So keep searching, never give up. It's never a dead end. If you feel like you're staring at a brick wall, shift to one side or the other side and try and look at it from a different angle. You might see something different. Wait a bit. Patience. I've learned patience. I am here and now. I need results here and now. And DNA taught me patience. And so sometimes you just need to sit back and not do anything. I mean, keep searching, here and there, but you have to give time its course. And sometimes you'll find that the right person took the right DNA test, and you'll get your answer. Just never give up. That's, if there's one thing I need to say, that's it. Never give up.
I love that. Never give up. And that's exactly what I posted on my timeline before the show started, is I'm never giving up. So there's a reason that it was meant to be in tea time today. We have a question for you from Ellen. She wants to know what the name of that song was. I'm guessing the song you're talking about your husband wrote.
Okay, it's called Holes in the Water.
So, Ellen, it's Holes in the Water, and I believe it's on YouTube, right, Janna?
Yep. And it's by Pure. I mean, you'll find the band is Pure Imbalance. But if you write Holes in the Water, Pure Imbalance, that you'll get it.
Awesome.
Together with some other amazing songs that he wrote.
Yeah, I'm going to be checking that out. Like, I found one last night, like I said before tea time started, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is such a gorgeous song. So once again, Janna, I would love to thank you for joining me today and coming into the studio. I know it's really late over there. It's getting late, and here it's afternoon in Canada. But I just love how this time has brought people together, during this pandemic, and giving me this chance to open this platform up to amazing people like you out there.
Thank you so much.
So I'm going to close the tea time unless you have another message you'd like to share with everybody, and then we're going to close it up with what Miss Liz is all about, and I will have a new guest for you next week on Wednesday. So Janna, final words, and then we're going to close tea time up.
I'm just truly grateful for all the people that have been part of my journey, and just thank you. I might not be able to call you and tell you, time and again how much I appreciate it. Therese Byron and Louise O'Connell, I'll be forever grateful. Siobhan for being such an amazing person, and my father's family in Boston. Michael O'Neilly and Boris and Barry and Alex. And I just love you. I just love you so much. And I feel so lucky. So thank you. And Liz, thank you so much for having me. I had a wonderful time. And well, it's not our last talk, so I'm not
No, no, no. We're just beginning this journey.
I'm not saying goodbye.
So thank you again, Janna, for joining. And thank you to all the viewers and supporters out there. If you'd like to know more on Miss Liz's Tea Time, check out my Facebook page, Miss Liz's Tea Times, Making a Difference, one cup of tea at a time. And we have a final comment from, and I'm going to post it. We love you too, Janna. So. Oh, and I have another one. We have love you, Janna, again. And so we have lots of love coming your way, Janna. So again, thank you for joining me. And don't leave the studio. I will talk to you after we close this up. But I'm just going to end tea time with what Miss Liz is all about. So we're just going to slide to the side, and you can stay with me for a bit. I'm just going to make sure I got this all set up right. And we're going to get this going.
Miss Liz, tea time, yeah, making a difference, one cup at a time, tea time, yeah, Miss Liz, tea time, yeah, making a difference, one cup at a time, tea time, yeah. So be sure to grab your tea, grab a seat, and tune in to Miss Liz, tea time, making a difference. One cup at a time. Tea time, yeah. Tea time.
Thank you for joining me, Miss Liz, for tea time. Making a difference. One cup.